Preparing for a data analyst at Kyndryl interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 20 key questions you're likely to face. For each question you'll see a sample answer followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. How would you investigate a sudden increase in failed IT service tickets? I would first confirm how failure is defined and whether the increase reflects real incidents or a reporting change. Then I would validate ticket ingestion, compare current volume with historical baselines, and segment results by client, service, region, severity, and release. I would examine recent deployments, capacity events, and recurring categories. Finally, I would present the leading causes, confidence level, business impact, and recommended actions, then monitor whether those actions reduce failures. While answering, focus on clarifying the metric, validating source data, segmenting failures by service and time, checking recent changes, identifying root causes, and communicating actionable findings to technical and business stakeholders. Question 2. What SQL techniques do you use to analyze operational data? For operational analysis, I commonly combine filtered CTEs with joins, grouped aggregations, case expressions, and window functions. For example, row number can identify the latest ticket status, while lag compares resolution time with the previous period. I explicitly handle nulls and time zones, validate joins for duplicate rows, and compare totals against source reports. On large tables, I filter early, select only needed columns, inspect execution plans, and use appropriate indexes or partitions. Make sure to cover joins, common table expressions, window functions, aggregations, conditional logic, date handling, null management, query validation, and performance considerations for large enterprise datasets. Question 3. How do you ensure data quality before publishing a dashboard? I treat data quality as a release gate. I check row counts, duplicate keys, null rates, valid ranges, referential integrity, freshness, and reconciliation against trusted source totals. I also test business rules, such as whether closure dates follow opening dates. Automated checks should flag exceptions before refresh, while a data dictionary records definitions and owners. I investigate material anomalies rather than silently filtering them, and I communicate known limitations directly on the dashboard. In your answer, talk about completeness, accuracy, consistency, timeliness, uniqueness, reconciliation with source systems, automated checks, exception handling, ownership, and documenting assumptions and metric definitions. Question 4. Explain the difference between inner join and left join, and describe a mistake you have seen with joins. An inner join returns only records matching in both tables, while a left join preserves every row from the left table and adds matching values when available. A common mistake is joining at incompatible grains, such as customers to transactions without aggregating transactions first. That duplicates customer rows and inflates totals. I prevent this by checking key uniqueness, documenting table grain, comparing row counts before and after the join, and validating totals with a small sample. Be sure to mention matching behavior, preservation of unmatched rows, one-to-many duplication, join keys, null results, row count validation, and how incorrect joins can distort business metrics. Question 5. How would you design a KPI dashboard for an enterprise IT services client? I would begin with the client's decisions, monitoring service levels, prioritizing incidents, or forecasting capacity. The dashboard might show availability, SLA attainment, mean time to resolve, backlog aging, change failure rate, and customer satisfaction. I would provide trend lines, target comparisons, and drill downs by service, priority, region, and owner. Definitions and refresh times must be visible. I would prototype with users, test comprehension, and remove visuals that do not support action. Focus on stakeholder goals, service level indicators, leading and lagging metrics, drill down paths, filters, alert thresholds, data refresh, accessibility, governance, and avoiding visually attractive but operationally useless charts. Question 6. What is the difference between mean, median, and percentile, and when would you use each for ticket resolution time? The mean is the arithmetic average, the median is the middle observation, and a percentile shows the value below which a chosen percentage of observations falls. Resolution times are often right-skewed, so the median better represents a typical ticket, while the mean reveals the impact of unusually long cases. I would report the median and 90th or 95th percentile for service management. Percentiles are especially useful for SLA commitments and exposing tail performance. Mention sensitivity to outliers, skewed distributions, business interpretation, percentile-based SLAs, representative central tendency, and why reporting multiple statistics can provide a more complete operational picture. Question 7. How would you handle missing values in a client reporting dataset? I would first determine whether missing values represent unavailable data, an inapplicable field, a pipeline defect, or a true zero. I would profile missingness by column, time, client, and source to see whether it is random or systematic. Depending on the metric, I might exclude records, use a documented imputation method, or report unknown separately. I would never replace blanks automatically. The final dashboard should disclose treatment, coverage, and any affected conclusions. In your answer, distinguish missingness from valid zero values, investigate the cause and pattern, assess business impact, choose justified treatments, preserve transparency, and avoid indiscriminate imputation. Question 8. Describe a time you found a discrepancy between two reports. How did you resolve it? I would avoid choosing a report by authority alone. I would compare definitions, source tables, refresh times, filters, time zones, and aggregation grain. Next, I would reconcile a small sample from the raw records through each transformation until the numbers diverge. After identifying the cause, I would align stakeholders on the authoritative definition, correct the query or pipeline, and document the change. I would also add a reconciliation test so future refreshes detect the issue automatically. Make sure to cover stakeholder alignment, metric definitions, source lineage, filters, time zones, granularity, reconciliation steps, root cause, documentation, and preventing the discrepancy from recurring. Question 9. How do you optimize a slow SQL query over millions of service records? I start with the execution plan to locate scans, expensive joins, spills, or poor cardinality estimates. Then I filter on indexed or partitioned columns early, select only required fields, and avoid applying functions to join or filter columns when possible. I verify join keys and aggregate before joining when the grain allows it. Depending on the platform, I may add indexes, clustering, or partitions. I benchmark each change and preserve readable, maintainable SQL. Discuss execution plans, filtering early, selective columns, join strategy, indexes, partitioning, aggregation order, avoiding unnecessary functions, statistics, and balancing performance improvements with maintainability. Question 10. How would you forecast future incident volume for a managed services team? I would begin by defining the forecast horizon and granularity, then clean historical incident counts and investigate outages, migrations, holidays, and seasonal patterns. A seasonal naive baseline gives a useful benchmark before testing regression, exponential smoothing, or time series models. I would validate using time-based splits rather than random sampling and report prediction intervals, not only point estimates. The output should support staffing decisions, with accuracy monitored and the model retrained as service conditions change. Cover historical patterns, seasonality, explanatory variables, data preparation, baseline models, validation, forecast intervals, business assumptions, monitoring accuracy, and translating results into staffing or capacity decisions. Question 11. What is the difference between correlation and causation? Give an example from IT operations. Correlation means two variables move together. Causation means changing one contributes to a change in the other. For example, higher ticket volume may correlate with lower customer satisfaction, but a major outage could cause both. I would investigate timing, segment comparable periods, control for severity and client mix, and seek supporting operational evidence. Where practical, a controlled change or quasi-experiment strengthens the conclusion. I would label correlations as hypotheses until causal evidence exists. While answering, explain association versus causal influence, confounding variables, temporal order, controlled comparisons, experiments, and why correlation alone should not drive expensive operational decisions. Question 12. How would you explain a complex analytical finding to a non-technical client executive? I would lead with the decision and business impact, not the technical method. For example, I might say, SLA breaches increased 12%, primarily because Priority 1 incidents stayed open longer in 2 regions. I would show one clear trend, quantify affected customers or cost, and explain confidence and limitations briefly. Then I would recommend a specific action and measurement plan. If executives want detail, I can provide a drill down or appendix without overwhelming the main discussion. Be sure to mention leading with the business implication, using plain language, quantifying impact, showing only essential evidence, stating confidence and limitations, recommending action, and inviting focused questions. Question 13. What steps would you take to protect sensitive client data while performing analysis? I would access only the fields and systems necessary for the stated purpose, using role-based permissions and approved environments. Sensitive identifiers should be masked, tokenized, or aggregated, and extracts should be encrypted with controlled retention. I would avoid copying client data into personal tools, maintain auditability, and follow contractual and regulatory requirements. Before sharing results, I would check for re-identification risk in small groups. Any suspected exposure should be reported immediately through the defined security process. Focus on least privilege access, approved environments, masking or anonymization, encryption, secure transfer, retention limits, audit logs, data minimization, regulatory obligations, and escalation of suspected exposure. Question 14. How would you investigate an SLA breach and identify whether it was preventable? I would verify the SLA clock, priority rules, pause conditions, time zone, and exclusion policies before analyzing breaches. Then I would reconstruct the ticket timeline, including assignment delays, customer waits, escalations, changes, and dependency outages. Segmenting by service, team, cause, and shift can reveal repeatable patterns. I would classify each breach as process, capacity, technology, dependency, or genuinely external. Recommendations might include routing changes, automation, runbook improvements, or revised staffing. Discuss SLA definition, event timestamps, clock rules, exclusions, ticket lifecycle, ownership transitions, dependency failures, segmentation, root cause analysis, and separating process issues from uncontrollable events. Question 15. What is data normalization, and when might you denormalize data for analytics? Normalization organizes data to reduce redundancy and update anomalies, typically by separating entities into related tables. That is valuable for transactional integrity. Analytics often benefits from controlled denormalization, such as a star schema with fact tables and descriptive dimensions, because fewer joins simplify reporting and improve performance. I would not duplicate data casually. I would define ownership, refresh logic, and quality checks. The right design depends on workload, scale, governance, and required query speed. Mention reducing redundancy and update anomalies, normalized relational design, analytical query performance, star schemas, fact and dimension tables, storage trade-offs, and preserving a governed source of truth. Question 16. How would you validate a data pipeline that feeds a client dashboard? I would validate the pipeline at each boundary. Schema and type checks on ingestion, uniqueness and null rules after transformation, and reconciliation against source counts and totals before publication. I would test edge cases such as late arriving records, duplicate events, time zone changes, and empty files. Freshness and completeness thresholds should trigger alerts, not silent failures. I would maintain lineage and sample-based business validation with stakeholders, then monitor production behavior after deployment. In your answer, cover schema checks, record counts, freshness, uniqueness, reconciliation, transformation rules, duplicate detection, failure alerts, representative test cases, lineage, and post-deployment monitoring. Question 17. Tell me about a time you had conflicting stakeholder requests for the same analysis. I would bring the stakeholders back to the decision the analysis must support. I would document each request, clarify definitions and deadlines, and identify conflicts in scope, grain, or success criteria. Then I would propose a minimum viable deliverable addressing the highest impact need, with a sequenced second phase for additional views. I would confirm the decision owner's prioritization in writing, explain trade-offs transparently, and maintain a backlog so lower priority requests are not lost. Focus on clarifying objectives, identifying decision owners, separating must-have from nice-to-have requirements, quantifying trade-offs, proposing an agreed scope, and documenting priorities and assumptions. Question 18. How would you measure whether an automation initiative improved IT service operations? I would establish a baseline before launch using metrics such as handling time, ticket volume, resolution quality, rework, SLA attainment, and customer satisfaction. After implementation, I would compare equivalent periods and, if possible, use a control team or phased rollout. I would segment results by ticket type and client to avoid masking variation. Success requires both efficiency and quality. Reducing time while increasing reopen rates is not improvement. I would monitor sustainability after adoption. Be sure to mention baseline periods, clearly defined success metrics, control comparisons, efficiency and quality outcomes, unintended effects, adoption, statistical caution, and monitoring after implementation. Question 19. What would you do if a business stakeholder asked you to remove inconvenient data from a report? I would first ask why the data is considered inconvenient. If it reflects a valid population, I would not remove it simply to improve results. I might address a documented data quality defect, but the exclusion rule must be objective, reproducible, and disclosed. I would preserve the original dataset, show the impact with and without the records, and involve the appropriate owner if pressure continues. Accurate reporting protects client trust and supports better operational decisions. Discuss ethical reporting, understanding the legitimate reason, preserving raw data, documenting exclusions, applying consistent rules, showing sensitivity analysis, escalating pressure, and protecting trust with evidence-based communication. Question 20. Why do you want to work as a data analyst at Kyndryl? I am interested in Kyndryl because data analysis can directly improve complex technology services for enterprise clients. My strengths in SQL, data quality, visualization, and stakeholder communication fit work such as service-level reporting, capacity planning, and operational improvement. I also value environments where analysts collaborate with engineers and business teams rather than producing isolated reports. Kyndryl's broad client context would let me solve practical problems at scale while continuing to develop in cloud, automation, and modern analytics. In your answer, connect analytical skills with technology services, client outcomes, operational improvement, cloud and data transformation, collaboration across teams, continuous learning, and Kyndryl's enterprise-scale problem-solving. If you are still with us, congratulations, you are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.